This day in sports history. Well, hey there, and welcome back to This Day in Sports History. I'm your host, Steve White. This dish is a member of the Sports History Network, and you can find more podcasts and more info at sportshistorynetwork.com. It's September 19th, and on this day over the years in sports history, we had an Olympic diving legend suffering a horrific injury that nearly cost him more than a medal. A thriller in Knoxville between the Tennessee Volunteers and the Florida Gators, and heartbreak at the 18th hole of a major golf tournament. All of that plus a non-sports did you know about sharks and vending machines. But let's start with what happened on this day in 1988, when Greg Louganis saw his whole career flash before his eyes. Greg Louganis had been in this spot many times, literally and figuratively. Since he was a little kid, he'd been diving off the 3-meter springboard into the water, perfecting his flips and twists and splashless entries through the years. He was the defending Olympic champ in the 3-meter springboard at this point, winning gold in LA in 1984. On this day in Seoul, South Korea, it was the prelims, and Louganis was ready for his 9th out of 10 dives. He visualized the reverse 2.5 pike dive in his head, finishing with a perfect vertical entry into the water. It would be anything but that perfection that he visualized. He misjudged his launch into the air, not distancing himself far enough from the board. Pulling out of his second rotation in preparation for entry, Louganis' head struck the board. His plummet into the pool was anything but graceful or splashless. He did not lose consciousness, and he swam to the edge, got out, but he did suffer a cut on the back of his head. It took several stitches to close the gash. Now, 6 months prior to the Seoul Olympics, Louganis had been diagnosed with HIV. The stigma around the disease at this time caused him to keep quiet about his diagnosis. But as he was being stitched up, he feared for his fellow competitors. There was blood in the water. Could the disease be passed along that way? Would the chlorine in the pool neutralize the virus? He didn't know. Nobody really knew. He stayed quiet and hoped for the best. Also, this was not the first time he'd hit his head in competition. In 1979, in Tbilisi, Russia, he hit his head on the 10-meter platform. In that incident, he'd been knocked out completely for 20 minutes. He'd also witnessed a fellow competitor, Sergei Chalabashvili, die after hitting his head on the 10-meter platform in 1983. Many thoughts swirled in his head as he waited for the treatment to be completed. Would he be able to continue? He would. He finished out the prelims in 3rd place, and the following day put on one of the most dominant displays of diving in Olympic history. He finished clear of the rest of the field by 25 points to win his 2nd gold medal in the 3-meter springboard. The '88 Olympics were the final Summer Games for Greg. He was a 5-time medal winner, taking silver in '76 at Montreal in the 10-meter platform, gold in the 10-meter platform and 3-meter springboard in Los Angeles, and repeating in both of those in '88 in Seoul. Just recently, Louganis admitted to selling 3 of his medals to raise money for a move to Panama. The medal he won for the 3-meter springboard in '88, though, is still in his possession. This episode is brought to you by the Stirling Soap Company. I'm a big fan of shave soap. I've been using different brands for years, and I recently gave Stirling's shave soaps a try, and I've been very happy with the results. Stirling's shave soaps give you a great lather and a frictionless feel that allows the razor to glide right over the skin for a super close shave. No skin irritation and a clean, refreshing feel with no soapy residue after. I can tell you without a doubt, it's simply the best shave I've ever had. And my wife has noticed too. And here's the thing. With the ability to purchase 1-ounce sample pucks, you can try out different scents to find the right one for you. Give Stirling Soap a try today. Visit stirlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com. On this day in 1998, it was the largest crowd to watch a college football game in the South at the time, and the game lived up to every bit of the hype. The number 2 Florida Gators traveled to Knoxville, Tennessee to take on the number 6 Tennessee Volunteers. The Gators had won 5 straight in their rivalry with the Vols, and there was no reason to expect anything to change. It wasn't that Florida was supposed to be so much better, but Tennessee had waved goodbye to Peyton Manning, wide receiver Marcus Nash, and linebacker Leonard Little, who had all been taken in the spring NFL draft. This was supposed to be a bit of a step back and regroup kind of year for Tennessee. The Gators, on the other hand, were just fine. 107,653 people were in attendance on this day, and outside of Ann Arbor, this was the biggest crowd to watch a college football game at the time. T. Martin was the new Tennessee quarterback, and he had not exactly inspired confidence in Vols fans after his first start the week before against number 17 Syracuse. Sure, the Vols won on a last-second kick by Jeff Hall, and Martin had led Tennessee on that final drive into field goal range, but he had only completed 9 of 26 passes for 143 yards. Those were not Peyton Manning numbers. And could the Volunteer defense stop anybody? Q's quarterback Donovan McNabb had diced up their secondary with 300 yards passing. Vols fans were outwardly confident, but inwardly wondering what was going to happen when the Gators rolled into Neyland Stadium on this day. The Gators looked like they were going to punch the ball into the end zone on their opening drive, but a Florida fumble on the goal line and a Volunteer recovery snuffed that one out. That was a shadow of things to come for the Gators. Down 3-0, Tennessee fullback Sean Bryson found some daylight between the tackles and scored the first points for the Volunteers.
T. Martin with a word for Sean Bryson, the fullback. And he hands the ball to Bryson and rips through. He may go. Touchdown, Tennessee!
57 yards untouched for the first touchdown of the game. The crowd got so loud there were a few in UT's Body Farm complaining about the noise.
Hey, would you keep it down in there? We're trying to get our eternal rest.
On the next drive, wide receiver Travis Taylor caught a Doug Johnson pass, but he got stripped with a second Gator fumble. Florida was going with an alternating quarterback scheme on this day, with Jesse Palmer and Johnson going back and forth. That may have led to some issues when Johnson was clocked in the backfield and he coughed up the third fumble of the first half that Tennessee recovered. But the Gators did manage to put a touchdown on the board late in the first half.
Left of the half, Tennessee by a touchdown. Florida threatening. Palmer to the end zone in traffic. Touchdown! Travis Taylor just inside the end zone.
Both teams added a touchdown in the third, and it would stay that way until the end of regulation, tied at 17. Tennessee got the ball first in overtime, but they seemed to go nowhere but backward until a third down play by T. Martin put them back into field goal range. A Jeff Hall field goal put them up 20-17. Florida stayed with its alternating quarterback scheme and just didn't move the football much. Gator kicker Collins Cooper came on to tie it up.
Who converted earlier, the only attempt of the season by Florida. From 32 yards, that kick is no good! Tennessee wins!
The Tennessee defense gets the majority of the credit for this one. Linebacker Al Wilson was a one-man wrecking crew, causing 3 of the Gators' 5 turnovers, and the defense simply stuffed the run. The Gators had negative 13 yards on 30 carries. It was a mob scene at Neyland after this one. The goalposts came down and CBS had a couple of cameras swiped in the melee. Tennessee went on to run the rest of the schedule, going 13-0 and winning the national championship in January. Now, the attendance record at Neyland would stand until 2004, until another Tennessee-Florida thriller. The biggest crowd to ever watch a college football game also included the Tennessee Volunteers when the Vols played Virginia Tech inside Bristol Motor Speedway in 2016. In 1965, the NFL felt it necessary to add another official to the crew, and it was really because of one man. So, a couple of days ago, you may remember that I talked about the new rule established back in 1933 that a legal forward pass had to only be made behind the line of scrimmage. Now before, it had been 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and that was dubbed the Bronco-Nagurski rule. Well, On this day, they might as well have called the addition of a linesman official the Fran Tarkenton official, because it was the Minnesota quarterback's ability to scramble and then throw the football that made this a necessity. The linesman was the 5th official added to the crew, now there's 7, and one of the big reasons that this ref was added was to make sure quarterbacks were not running beyond the line of scrimmage and then attempting a pass. On this day in 1959, the golf world was introduced to Jack Nicklaus. The 19-year-old was just a junior at Ohio State at this point, but he managed to capture the U.S. amateur title on this day. Nicklaus was going head-to-head with defending champ Charlie Coe. Now, this was a tight match throughout, with the pair all square coming to the 36th. Coe had a chance to put some additional pressure on the Buckeye, but his chip from the fringe came up a little bit short. That left Nicklaus with an 8-foot birdie putt to win, and he drained it. At 19 years, 8 months, he was the second youngest winner of the event, just 3 months older than Robert Gardner, who'd won it in 1909. Of course, Tiger Woods would break that mark 35 years later as an 18-year-old. If you play golf, then you most certainly have made some bad swings, had bad holes, and bad days on the golf course. Well, next time you're struggling around the green or it doesn't seem like you can make a putt, think about what New Zealander Danny Lee did on this day back in 2020. Lee was playing in the U.S. Open at Winged Foot. He'd made the cut and was just about to finish up his 3rd round when the wheels fell off the bus. He came to the 18th, 3 over for the day, 8 over for the tournament. He'd just made birdie at the 17th, though, and he was hoping to finish out the round strong to give himself a little bit of confidence for the final round. He missed the green with his approach, but a nice chip shot snuggled up close, leaving him 4 feet for par. Phew. Roll that in, hit the range for an hour, grab some dinner, watch some SportsCenter, get a good night's rest, come back tomorrow. Oh no, his putt burned the left edge and it slid 5 feet past. All right. Regroup. 5-footer's not a gimme, but certainly makeable. You know, we know that line, don't we? But the comebacker took a quick peek in the hole as well before zooming past by 6 feet. Well, at that point, the frustration started to set in. His 3rd, 4th, and 5th putts were step up and hit it, and they all zoomed by the hole. Finally, from 7 feet 7 inches away, he rolled in his 6th try to card a quintuple bogey 9 to close out his round. Now, Lee is not a fiery guy on the golf course, but he is human, and he does have human emotions, and he was obviously unhappy with the situation. He slammed his putter into his bag a couple of times, and then he walked off to the scorer's tent. Now, either the extracurricular putter mistreatment, or he may have gotten carpal tunnel from writing a 9 on his card, but he withdrew from the Open shortly afterward due to a wrist injury. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Hey, I get it. Sharks are scary. But what about vending machines? On average, vending machines are twice as likely to kill you as a shark. And just like you shouldn't tease a shark, trying to tease that Twix bar that got hung up to drop by shaking and tilting the machine is not a good idea either. That's what causes the injuries and fatalities. That's all I've got for you today. This and every episode of This Day in Sports History is researched, written, voiced, and produced by me, Steve White. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.